Every organization, no matter how successful, eventually faces moments when momentum falters. For decades, some ministries operated like well-oiled machines. Content went out, donations came in, and the cycle repeated. Surpluses and growth mask the risks beneath the surface. But even strong systems are vulnerable to slow, incremental changes that eventually become visible in the numbers. When income begins to lag and expenses remain fixed, the consequences can be stark. Understanding these dynamics is not just about accounting, it is about foresight, strategy, and the courage to face structural truths before minor setbacks become crises. The flywheel of growth. Successful organizations often rely on a flywheel model. Consistent output generates reliable revenue, which funds more activity, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. At its peak, this system seems effortless, producing surplus and stability year after year. Multiple revenue streams, including contributions, product sales, and event income, keep operations funded. Donor loyalty appears unshakable, and media presence extends influence globally. The flywheel creates an illusion of invulnerability. Yet, even a well-built flywheel can hide small cracks. When the external environment shifts or costs rise, the momentum begins to slow imperceptibly, and the very system that built success may also lock an organization into rigid structures. Early warning signs. The first signs of decline are rarely dramatic. A slight drop in revenue or a shrinking surplus may go unnoticed amidst ongoing activity. During certain years, temporary spikes in giving, fueled by extraordinary events or societal uncertainty, mask underlying trends. However, once the extraordinary surge settles, normal operational pressures reveal structural vulnerabilities. Expenses, particularly fixed costs, do not decline in tandem with revenue. Studios, broadcast contracts, staff, and infrastructure remain committed, creating a narrowing margin. What initially appears as normal fluctuation can quietly erode reserves and stability. Awareness of these early signals is essential for timely intervention. The changing media landscape. One structural challenge is the transformation of the media environment. Traditional long-form broadcasts no longer command the same captive audience, as younger generations favor short clips, podcasts, and social feeds. While digital platforms expand reach, they often fail to provide predictable revenue streams. Algorithms shift, ad revenue fluctuates, and converting casual viewers into committed supporters becomes more complex. This disruption reduces the predictability of the flywheel. Organizations built on a specific media model must adapt quickly or face shrinking pipelines of support. Failure to recognize these shifts can result in compounding financial pressure over time. Margin compression and fixed costs. Even minor drops in revenue become significant when fixed costs are high. Studios, production contracts, global programs, and administrative structures cannot be downsized instantly. The arithmetic becomes unforgiving. Expenses remain locked while income declines. Margin compression gradually transitions an organization from surplus to deficit, a shift that may not appear dramatic at first. Once the deficit emerges, it begins eroding the reserves that once provided a safety net. The impact is compounded if new financial commitments, such as long-term leases or infrastructure expansion, occur just as reserves begin to thin, creating tension between operational necessity and financial prudence. The cost of leadership dependency. Organizations heavily reliant on a single leader face additional challenges. The founder's presence often drives trust, engagement, and donations. Over time, age, reduced public appearances, or limited succession planning can amplify structural vulnerability. Without a widely recognized successor, Donor confidence may waver, especially as live events decline and broadcasts rely more on archives. Leadership risk, combined with other structural pressures, reduces the predictability of income. The emotional component of loyalty intersects with arithmetic realities, making financial management more delicate. An organization's long-term stability depends not just on the balance sheet, but on how well it manages the transition from founder-centric operations to broader institutional leadership. The aging donor base. Another factor influencing sustainability is the changing donor profile. Many longtime supporters are aging or on fixed incomes, and their giving patterns are less predictable. Estate gifts and historical loyalty cannot replace consistent, recurring contributions. Simultaneously, younger generations prefer project-based campaigns, measurable outcomes, and digital engagement. This demographic shift changes both the volume and the type of support organizations receive. Without strategic adaptation, the donor pipeline narrows, reducing revenue reliability. Understanding these patterns is essential, as the combination of an aging donor base, shifting giving habits, and a static expense structure accelerates financial strain over time. Structural vulnerabilities. The structural issues are compounded by historical reforms and compliance requirements. After scrutiny and federal oversight in past years, many organizations strengthened governance, auditing, and professional oversight. While these reforms improve credibility, they also increase fixed costs and operational rigidity. Studios, contracts, and staff expertise remain costly, creating an operational trap. When income falters, the expense base cannot shrink easily. In essence, legal and operational prudence may inadvertently amplify financial vulnerability, highlighting the tension between good governance and adaptability. Recognition of these dynamics is critical for leaders navigating complex institutional pressures. The impact of new commitments. Timing of new long-term commitments can intensify financial stress. For example, new leases, infrastructure investments, or operational expansions can coincide with shrinking reserves. While legally transparent and operationally justified, these commitments send signals to stakeholders about priorities and financial prudence. Donors and supporters notice deficits alongside ongoing visible expenses. The optics matter. Even when compliance and transparency are fully maintained, perceptions of stewardship influence giving behavior. Strategic decision-making must therefore balance operational needs with the message it conveys to those who sustain the organization financially. The arithmetic of decline. Decline is often a matter of arithmetic rather than scandal. When high fixed costs meet falling revenue, deficits emerge and reserves begin to fund operations. A surplus of 1 year can become a multi-million-dollar deficit within a few cycles. This erosion of net assets reflects real financial pressure and alters organizational strategy from growth to survival. Leaders must confront these numbers directly. The trajectory is often more significant than a single year's result. Understanding the math helps clarify choices for scaling, restructuring, or adapting the operating model. Delaying intervention risks compounding the challenge. Paths to adaptation. Despite structural challenges, solutions exist. Organizations can scale down operations, restructure costs, and pivot toward leaner, more digitally focused models. Adapting to new donor behavior, streamlining content delivery, and reassessing long-term commitments can stabilize operations. Each decision, however, reveals organizational priorities, whether to preserve the mission or protect existing structures. Strategic, transparent adaptation is essential to maintain trust, sustain income, and align operational reality with mission goals. Effective planning addresses both the arithmetic of decline and the human factors shaping donor confidence and organizational loyalty. Conclusion. Confronting reality. Every institution eventually faces a moment when growth is no longer the defining story. Declines, deficits, and demographic shifts are not failures. They are signals. The path forward requires acknowledging vulnerabilities, adapting operations, and strategically managing resources. Leadership, donor engagement, and media strategy all intersect with financial reality. The choices an organization makes now will determine whether it continues to thrive, stabilizes in a leaner form, or risks deeper decline. Open scrutiny, proactive adaptation, and measured decisions are the tools for confronting structural challenges and sustaining a mission in a changing landscape.